So guys, here I have two ESXi hosts and one vCenter. So here I can see, first of all, you must know that how to read this read vCenter. This is my vCenter, and here I have two data center. On this data center I have nothing, and this is my main data center. And under this data center I have one cluster. It has two hosts. Both hosts are working fine, and there are some VMs sitting on these hosts. Now I'm going to enable DRS on this. Now guys, if you go to, first of all, the first requirement is that you must have a cluster and hosts are sitting in a cluster. Because DRS is an option that can only work in a cluster. If you go to cluster, so if I'm gonna right click on a cluster and then go to edit settings, and here I'm gonna enable DRS on this. Guys, as soon as you enable DRS, keep an eye on your left side here. On your left side, you will see menu change. So here, you will see special DRS options here. So in DRS, there are three levels. There is manual level, there is partially automated, there is fully automated. In manual, we all know that it only provides recommendations and it won't take any action. Whereas partially automated would only provide recommendation and it won't take any action, but the only thing extra it can do intelligent placement, which is starting a VM on a most suitable host. And the third one is fully automated. In fully automated, it will take action, it will provide suggestions, and it does IP placement, or it does intelligent placement. Guys, fully automated runs in three different modes. It from conservative to aggressive. Here in conservative, it only carries out priority 1 recommendation. In 2, 1 and 2 recommendations, and then here it's 3, and then 4 and 5. In aggressive mode, it will carry out all recommendations. Wherever it sees that it's breaching the threshold, it would move machines from one host to another. Now, guys, here if I go inside, so I'm going to keep it to middle, the default value, and secondly, I'm going to move on to DRS groups. Within DRS groups, guys, we can create a groups of VMs. You can create a group of, let's say, Exchange VMs. You can create a group of critical VMs. So here, if you go here, let's say I'm saying this is a web server. So I'm going to say web server group. And in web server group, I have 3 machines inside. So 1 and 2 and 3. So now I've created a group of just web servers here. And then what I did, I created that group. So I created a group. Now, with this group, what we can do, and the same thing, we can create a group of hosts as well. This is just a group of VMs, and then I'll create a group of hosts. For example, if I have more than 2 hosts, if I have, let's say, 10 hosts, I can say, you know what, so you can have hosts, guys, that are more powerful, or you might have hosts that are less powerful. So I can say powerful host in one group and less powerful host in other group. Here we're not creating any group because we have only 2 hosts here. I'm going to cancel this. And in groups, we have only created a web server group. Now, secondly, now guys, there are rules here. As we studied, as we have seen, that rules are of 2 types. There is affinity rules. There is anti-affinity rules. Anti-affinity rule is when you need to keep 2 machines separate from each other. And affinity rule is when you need to keep 2 machines always together on one host. So let's create a rule here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say this is my affinity rule. This is affinity rule. And in affinity rule, I'm saying keep VMs together. If you need to create an anti-affinity rule, you can go here and say separate VMs. So here I'm going to say keep VMs together. And what I can do now in add, I'm going to say, you know what, whenever you move web 1, move web 2 with this. So I'm going to create a rule with just these 2. So wherever it moves web 1, web 2 will be automatically moved with it. Now guys, I'm going to add this rule, and then once it is created, so I've created this rule, you will click OK, and now I'm going to create an anti-affinity rule. So we'll go inside, we'll go and create an anti-affinity rule. So anti-affinity rule. In anti-affinity rule, what happens, we're going to keep VMs separate. We're going to keep 2 VMs separate. So here, what I'm going to do is, you can go to add, And here I'm going to say, you know what, wherever web1 is, do not place fs on this. So we're going to create a rule saying web1 and fs, they'll be always separate. Or we can say, you know what, web1 and 10. Web1 and Web10 is always separate. In your case, you can create your own machine, and later on we're going to create many dummy VMs so that we can practice with them. For now, I'm saying wherever Web1 goes, Web10 cannot go onto that VM. So here, and then I'm going to create, and now guys, there is a third rule which is saying if you want to stick VM with a certain host. So for example, there is a certain database VM which has more capacity, and you don't want to move that VM anywhere else. Now, as we know, DRS can do intelligent placement. For example, you don't want even DRS to apply intelligent placement on a certain VM. Here I can say, you know what, I need to create a rule in which you're saying that, you know what, it's saying VM on host 1, VM on host 1. I'm saying that this particular VM will always be on host 1. So here I'm saying, now you can apply this complete rule. You can apply this complete rule on DRS groups. You can apply must be on the host or on a cluster here as well. So here I'm saying that this applies to web server, and web server must always be, should run only on this host group. So it is applied here, and host for this I need to have a host group as well, guys. We do not have a host group in this, so I'm not gonna use this. But basically, this VM is if you want to stick a VM on a certain host. So for now, we have two rules here: affinity and anti-affinity, and then we have some other. You have VM options here as well in DRS. In DRS, what it says, you know what, apply default DRS settings to all the VMs. But if, for example, you're saying that VMware vCenter, it is DRS should not apply anything on this, you can disable it. So on a certain VM, you're saying, I want that VM away from DRS. So we can say DRS cannot apply its rule on a certain VM, and we disabled it. Or here we can say, oh, on this one, just give me recommendations. So you can only use manual automation on this. So guys, as you can see, separately you can do many things on each VM. So if I say that on vCenter, it has a manual automation, it means on this, all of the VMs, all the rest of the VMs will be fully automated mode, but this VM will be on a manual automated mode. Now next one here, just like guys, DRS, there is another option called DPM. Now DPM is distributed power management. Guys, distributed power management is an option in which if a host is not fully used, what it can do, DPM can move all VMs from that host to another host and shut down that VM and shut down that complete host. I'm going to give you a one-liner for this on the whiteboard, but here we're not using DPM, guys. In none of the environments it is used. We just need to remember this is power management. And the last one is host options, and host option is you can say, you know what, I have two hosts in this cluster, and on both of them default DPM is disabled on them. If you need to enable DPM on any one of them, you can enable them. But by default, DPM is disabled on all hosts and all VMs. And with this, we can configure the host. Now I've configured DRS. Guys, in order to see if DRS is working or not working, what we can see, you can click on cluster, and there is one tab called DRS. In this tab, it shows you what is your DRS structure. What is your DRS configuration? So it's saying your DRS is working in fully automated mode. DPM is not enabled on this, and migration threshold apply 1, 2, and 3, which is default value, and power management is not working on this. Now, at any point in time, guys, by default, by default it keeps on checking in regular interval. It just keeps on checking as soon as, or regular interval, or whenever the threshold reaches. Whenever the threshold reaches of CPU, then DRS will work, DRS will come into action. So whenever the threshold is reached, let's say it has 3 VMs and 3 VMs, and now your CPU is getting high, and DRS sees that it needs to take an action. What it does, it will try to take an action and move the VM from one place to another. But guys, if you don't want to wait until the threshold is reached and you want to run DRS right now, then what you can do, you can run DRS at the moment just to see current situation. For example, if I run DRS right now, what it does, it refreshes recommendation. If it sees that it needs that certain VM needs to move from one place to another, it can move VM from one place to another. Now let's see that if we can manually apply DRS here in this situation. Now in order for DRS to work, you must have CPU threshold or you must have RAM threshold, memory threshold or CPU threshold. Guys, here if you go to host here, first of all, let me see the overall situation on this cluster. So guys, it's very important for all of us to understand how do you see the performance of a cluster and host. So guys, it's right here. So first of all, if I'm on a cluster, I can go to host and it's showing me that both of the hosts are doing pretty well here. So as you can see, on this one it is just 2% used. On this one it is 1% used. Memory is just 28%. So there is no load on this basically. Now if there is no load, guys, DRS has no work in this. You have to have load so that you can have DRS on this. Now, at the same time, if you need to see how much VMs are putting on this cluster, so if you go to VM, and on this side here it says that everything is working fine. There are few machines that are not connected. Now, they are not connected because there maybe storage is not available. Maybe something happened to these VMs. But other VMs are available, and I can see one template sitting here. So if I go to host, I can see VMs. I can see host, I can see DRS overall settings, and here is the resource allocation, that if you have ever applied shares, reservations and all that, and reservation limits and shares, this you will see here, or you can change these settings right from here as well. For example, here you can change it to, if you change those settings, so it is CPU, inside you have memory, you have storage. So you can do some resource allocation, and it gives you some summary here as well. So guys, in this case, if I go to VM and go to host and go to DRS, and then I want to see that if DRS is working fine or not. Guys, let's see this. For example, what is my affinity rule? My affinity rule was saying if web 1 is moved somewhere, then web 2 should move with this. But here I see web 1 is not available. First of all, let me see why this is not available. So what I'm going to do, in order to see that if what happened to this VM, guys, well, I'm going to go on to the select the VM and go to summary and see that where is my VM sitting. Guys, VM says that it is sitting on a shared storage. Now, which means that my open filer is not available. So since my open filer server is not available, that is why these both VMs are not connected. So what I'm going to do is, so here I can see my open filer is not working. I'm going to find my open filer server and I'm going to start it now. So here my open filer server was here. So this is my open filer server. I'm going to start it, guys. Everybody knows that why this machine was grayed out, because the VM is actually sitting in the storage and storage is not available. So I'm going to start open filer, and in few minutes, as soon as open filer is back, these VMs, you will see these VMs will be automatically active. But guys, you must know that you will see as a VMware admin, you will see this situation. Some VMs are not available. If they are not available, you can always go to a summary and see which storage they are connected to and if that storage is available or not available. So here, open filer is starting up. Actually, it is started up, and now here in few moments this VM should automatically come back. But now guys, everyone, let's create 4 more VMs on this. Let's create 4 more VMs on this. So here, I'm going to create 4 more VMs in this cluster. So let's create a new VM. So, and then we're gonna create affinity rules and anti-affinity rules. We're gonna apply some pressure, some pressure on the host and see that if DRS takes automatic decisions or not. So here I'm gonna create a new VM, and this VM is created as typical. I'm gonna name it CANAPS DC1. So I'm just going to name it CANAPS DC1, although it's not a DC. And then it's saying, where do you want to store it, guys? We're going to store everything in our shared storage so that vMotion can apply. Do not store it in local storage. So they should all go in shared storage. And here they're connected. And do not use thick provisioning. Just use thin provisioning here. And then next, done, finish. And I'm going to create another storage, other VM as well. Yes? So it is Windows. Yes. Just go with the default. I'm going to create another one, guys. It is typical. And then I'm going to create another DC called CANAPS DC2. CANAPS DC2. And then I'm going to store it in shared storage. So you're going to store it in shared storage again. And since, guys, guest operating system is 2008 R2. We're not installing operating system. We're just creating VMs. And guys, remember to have thin provisioning on it. Do not have thick provisioning. So now I have 2 VMs created, and in the same manner, we're going to create some more. While we are creating VM, let's make use of our template. So let's create VMs from a template. How do you create VMs from a template? You need to go to home. First of all, in order to work with the template, you need to go home, and then from here you can go to VMs and template on this one, and then from here it shows you a template. This is my master image template that we created last week. And here all I'm going to do is deploy a virtual machine from this template. So now the advantage is you don't need to do the same things again. Here you would just follow the template. So I'm going to name it CANAPS, and let's name it VS1. No, this is Web21, and I'm going to place it in this data center, Toronto data center, and then next, and in this cluster, in Toronto data center, same cluster that we have all other stuff, and it is asking me for a data store, and in this case, I'm going to store it. I'll try to store it in provision. So I'm going to do a thin provision, and here I'm not able to find. Yes, I'm going to go back. Here I'm going to go back. So I'm going to store it in this ESXi2 DS3. Customize. Do not customize. Actually, I'm going to use existing. Okay, so again, one more time. Guys, templates are there for quick creation of VMs. I can create VMs. I can create a new VM. It might not take more time. But here, from a template, all you need to do, right-click on a template, and then from a template, deploy virtual machine from this template. You can say deploy virtual machine from this template, and then it asks you what the name of the machine. So here we're going to say that this is CANAPS FS20. This is file server 20. We're going to keep it in Toronto data center, and then next, and then move it to the cluster here. And then from here, I'm going to select any cluster for now, because where the template is, it will use one of those clusters, And here I'm not customizing. Now, what is customization? Yes, it's not showing. I think the template is sitting in the local storage. That's why it's not showing. But later on, we're going to migrate it to SAN. You have OpenFiler there? You can see OpenFiler? Okay. So yes, OpenFiler1. If you have OpenFiler1, just move it there, store it there. So now customization is, remember we created a customization where it provides a different name, then it increments the name by numbers and those things. So do not, for now we're not customizing it, we're just storing it. So here I have few machines now available. Now these machines, if we go back to home and go to host and cluster, within host and cluster now I can see all these machines here. My web one is still not available. Guys, let me see if my web one, why is it not available? I can go, if I can browse onto this, and here it's empty. So which means this VM is not, so the open filer that I've started, probably this is not the right open filer that I was working with. What I can do is I can try to find my other open filer. Because the disk is not available. Now guys, let's, just for testing, let's create an affinity rule. Let's create an affinity rule that wherever DC1 moves, DC2 moves with this. So let's go back into cluster. Let's go back into cluster. Go to edit settings. And then within this, go to rules. And within rules, create a new rule. Again, I'm going to do that again one more time. So let's go back to cluster and edit settings. Let's go back to cluster, edit settings, and here go to rules, and then here just click add. Just click add, and here let's say Affinity DCV, Affinity Rule. So we're saying that wherever DC1 goes, DC2 goes along with this. DC Affinity Rule. Actually, this should be an anti-affinity rule. So hold on, because we'll create a separate rule for this, but DC1 and Web10. Wherever DC1 goes, Web10 goes along with this. Now, why am I not creating a DC1, DC2? Because guys, this goes against, this shouldn't be, there should be a DC1 and DC2 should be on separate hosts. That's why. Otherwise, we can move both of them together. So here DC1 and Web10. So the rule is this, and then I'll click OK. Now I have this rule, DC Affinity Rule, and then click OK. Now let me move. Let's first see where is this sitting. So guys, everyone look at the screen. Here, if I go to cluster and if I go to VMs, it's showing me Web10 is sitting on 50 and DC1 is sitting on 60. So Web10 is sitting on 50. Web10 is sitting on 50, and the affinity rule says that both should be on the same host, right? So I'm going to go into DRS and run the DRS recommendation. So technically, if I run the DRS recommendation, it should automatically move both onto one host. Either it would move DRS, either it would move DC or Web10. So here, just run it. Once you run it, and let's see what's happening in the recent task here. So I'm running it. So guys, here it's saying refresh recommendation, reconfigure cluster. Let's see if I go to VMs here. It's not moved yet. Oh, it won't move. It won't move, guys. It won't move because vMotion requirement doesn't fulfill on this. One of the vMotion requirement is that all the VMs should be in a shared storage. Let's see. DC1 is not on a shared storage. DC1 is on a local storage. DRS cannot do anything because vMotion requirements are not working. So first of all, I need to move it in a shared storage. So you need to have them in a shared storage. Once they are in a shared storage and they fulfill all vMotion requirements, then DRS will work. Guys, this is how we configure DRS. Now I have a problem with the storage. I'm going to fix that and then I'm going to resume the video. So for now,